Derby.
Turn. The leader, War Admiral, 2.5 for 3.
That's what it is in the center of the racetrack. The Admiral Sloop drawing alongside again.
War Emblem is still there. War Emblem, he's pulling away. He's got another gear. Yeah, that's Red Snake coming the Derby. Wheel away takes command. Lionheart is all heart. Smarty Jones is all out. And here is the first undefeated winner of the Kentucky Derby since Seattle Slow of 1976.
And a good Thursday morning from the Ville, Louisville, Kentucky. You can see the sun starting to peek up over the horizon on the east side of town, over a fast Churchill Downs main track, partly cloudy skies, a bit warmer today, 10 degrees warmer or so than it's been most of the week as we march forward toward the 151st Oaks and Kentucky Derby, and of course Saturday's opening night. We'll open the gates for the racing season here at Churchill Downs, and that also means opening the gates for Derby week. As we say, no turning back now. It's Derby season here in the Ville, and another beautiful day for Oaks and Derby training as we continue that march toward the 151st Kentucky Derby. And even though there's no racing today, there's plenty going on. We had Sandman yesterday with his final, maybe not final, but one of his final serious moves leading toward the Kentucky Derby. Went 5 furlongs. We'll talk about that. Also on the West Coast, Citizen Bull did similar. He went 7 furlongs at Santa Anita. He's scheduled to arrive to Churchill Downs today, last year's 2-year-old champion. And maybe the biggest story yesterday was the arrival of Journalism. Rodriguez also made his initial appearance here at Churchill, and Luxor Cafe, who is probably the main threat from Japan of the two in this year's Kentucky Derby. He is at Churchill Downs too, and as are myself and Tony Travis Stone, Tony Kalo, live from the Aristides Loft here at Churchill Downs. Good morning, Tony. Here we are.
We are here. A little more difficult to get here this morning. A lot of construction. The cyclone fencing is up on Central. We're not allowed to park in our designated spots. It was tougher to get in the facility. I tried to say I was Travis Stone, and they said the Stone family doesn't have that kind of muscle anymore.
That's a good pull. Okay. You know who does have that sort of muscle? Caitlin Free. I bet you she had no problem rolling into the backstretch today. Good morning, Caitlin.
Good morning, guys. Definitely a little bit easier than what it's going to be here in the coming weeks as far as getting into parking lots here on the backside. I think it's going to get a little bit more stringent, but starting today, dawn at the Downs is set to begin from 6:45 to 10 a.m. and is open to the public for free to come in and watch these Kentucky Derby contenders that are supposed to be training at 7:15 through 7:30 during that designated training time. You mentioned it, Luxor Cafe arrived yesterday around 7:30. He went straight into the quarantine barn in the stall right beside Admire Daytona. So I'm not sure if we're going to see him on the track this morning. If we don't, I would definitely imagine we will see him tomorrow. And also scheduled to arrive today is Citizen Bull for trainer Bob Baffert. Rodriguez and Tenma came in on the first shipment. Citizen Bull had a work yesterday at Santa Anita, so he's going to be fresh getting in a little bit later today. I believe Baeza on the also eligible list is also scheduled to arrive here this afternoon from California.
A lot of horses coming and going as we count down the days to the Oaks and the Derby. It's nice seeing the backstretch there, isn't it? The Spires in the background.
It's pretty cool.
Morning at the track, always a great time.
It is, unless you're up early mucking stalls, then it's not quite as fun.
Fair point. Never done that. Anyway,
done
Kentucky Derby leaderboard. As you can see, most of these fellows are here, including Journalism. We'll take a look at him here in a little bit. Sandman worked yesterday. Burnham Square, top of the list. Points leaderboard. The favorite probably comes from that first page for sure in terms of Journalism, but there's 20 horses in here, and there's a lot of horses with chances.
Yeah, it's not always the best horse that wins the race. It's the horse that gets the best trip that usually wins the Kentucky Derby. So as long as you're in, you've got a puncher's chance.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with Baeza and some of these also eligibles in terms of Bilt's decision whether or not to run in the Kentucky Derby. In terms of one of the favorites, he's not going to be the favorite. I think he'll be second favorite. That's Sandman.
Yeah, you've been saying that, and it makes a lot of sense. Obviously named the song Metallica. Metallica's already sent gear to Mark Cassie's barn, so it's only going to continue to grow as we get closer and closer, and the novice fans are going to recognize, whoa, Sandman, and then you see him, and he's a striking gray by Tap at $1.2 million purchase. He is a beautiful horse.
And Mark Cassie, always good for a good interview. We'll find that out here in a little bit. He always says the right things and makes you think twice about tossing his horses. He's going to need a fast pace. He's not getting a slow pace. I mean, if there's a slow pace in the Derby, I don't think any of us can really handicap. There's our concerns, though. He's 0 for 3 at Churchill. Sometimes the dirt in the face seems to be an issue with him. And when you close in the Kentucky Derby, you have to navigate a lot of traffic.
Yeah, you really do. Everything has to work out. You have to go back and watch some of those trips. Mind That Bird with Calvin Burrell, Sonny Leone aboard Rich Strike. Everything worked out perfectly. The Kentucky Derby is a race that I will wake up the next day and watch it 5-10 times in the course of 2 days because the trips are incredible and you'll be, oh wow, look at that horse was making a move and he got shut off. It's the difference between winning and losing.
That's what made the rides by Calvin Burrell on horses like Street Sense and Mind That Bird so impressive. Jose Ortiz is going to be riding Sandman. Jose has had a phenomenal last 12 months.
He really has. It was a great move for him to venture to Kentucky and compete here at Churchill Downs. He tied atop the standings a year ago during the spring season with Tyler Gaffalione. He made a very, very positive move going to Fairgrounds and he just dominated that colony. He's on the verge, that's for sure.
Mark Cassie, the trainer of Sandman, he's been knocking on the door with some pretty good Kentucky Derby efforts in the past. This is arguably one of his best chances so far, and Mark is on the backstretch with Caitlin.
He got here right on time, probably the most punctual guest we've had yet. It's trainer Mark Cassie here joining us in the clocker seat. I just want to go ahead and briefly ask, after those moves that both Lucara and Sandman had earlier in this week, how did they come out of those?
Great. They look tremendous. Lucara's going back to the track this morning. She looks great. She's just a little powerhouse. And Sandman looked great this morning. He had the day off, but he'll be back to the track tomorrow.
We talked a little bit off camera about that workout from Sandman. Very easy, very maintenance. What do you have planned for him coming up in the next few mornings with 9 days out from the Derby?
Not a lot. We're going to do the same thing we've done. You know, we did into the Southwest, into the Rebel, and into Arkansas Derby. He's a fit horse. He does a lot in his gallops. I thought his work yesterday was great. You watch him. He didn't know he was working, and then about the top of the lane on the radio, we said smooch to him, and when he did that, he's like, "Oh, okay, I'm supposed to go," and he took off, and then he galloped out extremely well. As you know, we were talking about earlier. I don't know that there's any horse in the race that's going to appreciate the 1.25 miles more than him.
He's a horse that is absolutely on progression. His best days are ahead of him. Mentally, a horse that's maybe still maturing a little bit, if that's fair to say. He's shown some signs of greenness sometimes in the stretch. Does that concern you at all with all the hubbub that surrounds a Kentucky Derby?
He's extremely smart, so that little bit of stuff now. He just made the lead, and I look at it as he's doing it effortlessly. If he's not focusing. He'll probably have to focus in the Derby. So he'll have plenty to run at, and no, I'm not worried at all.
Just kind of got a little bit lost when he was the front. He's like, hey, where'd all my friends go?
Right. You know, it's like, oh, this is fun. And I look at it as that's how easy he was winning. The interesting thing, Jose said, when I pulled him up, he said he didn't even take a deep breath. Jose was amazed after the Arkansas Derby. He thinks there's so much more there.
Speaking of horses that have not taken a deep breath, Lucara, an amazing performance in the Grade 1 Ashland, an effortless breeze the other day. What does she need to do to keep progressing into the Kentucky Oaks 8 days out?
She's in a great spot right now. You know, I don't know if there's much more she can do. She's really good. Obviously, they say there's some serious pace in the race, but we're going to go to the lead. Now, if somebody wants to come along, they're welcome to give it a try, but we feel that's her way to run. And I had that conversation with Dylan yesterday. We're going to the lead, so we'll see.
That's how he rode her last time out. It executed absolutely perfectly.
And that's the way he's going to ride her again on Friday.
Well, you heard it here first. Thanks so much, Mark.
Thanks for having me.
Great group of horses coming up for trainer Mark Cassie in the Kentucky Derby and Kentucky Oaks. Lots more to look forward to with Lucara and Sandman.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Caitlin. Pace on in the Oaks, sounds like.
Yeah, Lacara going to be gunned hard. A very quick workout, 46 seconds.
Yeah,
And,
she's sharp.
you know, there's no reason to change right now. Horses are who they are. Their styles are what they are. And to tinker and try to make adjustments late, probably not advisable.
The other takeaway there was Sandman. He's talking about wandering about, things of that nature. We've talked a lot about it, you and I. These tappets, sometimes the Derby, you know, they can be a little bit cantankerous, a little bit moody, a little bit all over the place at times.
It's a race like no other in the world. There'll be 150,000 people here. The levels are going to be super, super loud, and it's a lot for a horse to have to deal with. You know, watching that replay again, though, Jose gave him a crack with the right, and then he gives him another crack with the left. What is a young horse supposed to do? He's supposed to listen to what his rider is suggesting. So perhaps it maybe wasn't as much wandering as more just being instructed.
Yeah, and perhaps that's also was the learning opportunity for him, and now he's going to be sharper and more focused come the Kentucky Derby. He's going to have to pass a fairly stout individual by the name of Journalism, who figures to be the favorite.
Look at that individual, Travis. That is just a muscled out horse. The definition of definition. I wish I could have looked like that at one point in my life. Just an incredible individual right there.
There's still time, Tony.
Nah, I'm running short on days and years.
Journalism arrived at Churchill Downs 2 days ago, shipped all the way from California, made its first impression on the racetrack yesterday. And Matt Nakatani, agent for Umberto Rispoli, texted me yesterday afternoon asking what everybody think. And I said, I mean, what an amazing individual. He goes, out here, we call him King Kong.
Denzel Washington training day. King Kong got nothing on me. Well, Denzel, Journalism's got a lot on you, my friend.
This was a pretty impressive appearance at Churchill.
Just incredible. And like you mentioned in our pre-show, the horse just got off the plane, and then he had to van in from Indianapolis. He's an incredible looking horse.
Journalism will be racing in the white bridle via the Lucas Pletcher Michael McCarthy training tree. We talked with Michael yesterday.
I thought he got over the track very well today. First day here, seemed like he handled everything in stride. Horse has been in a wonderful groove here for weeks now, months actually. Just a nice leg stretcher, let him kind of see his way around there and see how he gets over the racetrack. Finish up nicely with a decent gallop out. Big, strong horse, handles everything in stride. 8 up last night, just more or less no surprises. Yeah, I think that's kind of what you're looking for. I don't think you find too many sprinters hanging around too late in this race, but they've all got to go out there and do it.
Michael McCarthy, I feel like there's a little bit of confidence in his voice there. He's sort of a reserved fellow. He doesn't really say too much when the mic's on him, but there's some confidence there for sure.
If you cannot exude confidence with Journalism, then you can with any other racehorse. He's done nothing wrong in his 4 route races. His only lone defeat was career 1 in a 1-turn affair.
Speaking of closers, we talked about Sandman. Journalism probably comes from off the pace. Sovereignty definitely comes from off the pace.
Yes, and he's another grand-looking individual. The thing I like both about Journalism and Sovereignty is I just think they're both perfectly proportioned. Their hindquarters are equal to their neck, chest, and shoulders. They are both just tremendous specimens. It's kind of like the NFL Combine when you're looking at an athlete and you see that there it is. There's a first rounder, bona fide first rounder. I think you get that with both Journalism and Sovereignty.
You a horses for a course guy?
You know, I think it factors in. It's definitely not my final reasoning why I land on a horse, but hey, you can't take it away from a horse.
Yeah, he raced here at Churchill Downs last October. Arguably one of the more impressive performances on the Derby Trail. Not to take away from some of the big things we've seen this year, but as 2-year-olds, that was stout.
And the other thing is he was a maiden when he won that race, which was awesome. His final furlong in the street sense was just powerful. He really put it all together in the final furlong. And I'll tell you what, he concluded his 2-year-old campaign the way he started his 3-year-old campaign, with an ultra impressive final furlong in the Fountain of Youth.
Bill Mott, much like Michael McCarthy, can be a little bit reserved on camera. Let's see what he had to say yesterday on Sovereignty.
He's been good. He's been healthy, and we're very fortunate that he shipped good from Florida. He's had a good work over the racetrack. He's been, very much on his toes since he's been here. Every day seems like he's checking everything out, not in a bad way, but looking everything over, but moving very well on the racetrack. And like I say, he came off his work was as good as I could have ever asked for. He's continued to progress. I mean, I think the way he looks and the way he feels and the way he's moving, I think he's done well in every aspect. He's eating well, which we always like to see. He's got a good appetite. And I wouldn't, right now, as of today, and we got a long ways to go to the Derby. We're 10 days out, and that seems like an eternity sometimes. But I wouldn't change anything right now. Sometimes we feel we'd like to wrap him in bubble wrap, but we can't. And so he's got to go ahead and train. He's got to train and get ready for the race. Well, just a useful work. I don't think we're looking for anything special. It doesn't have to be as fast as it was the other day, but just something to, maintain his conditioning and do enough to, let him get some of that energy out of him.
It feels like, much like McCarthy, Bill Mott has a little bit of confidence with his horse sovereignty.
Yeah, and he should. Like we mentioned, he's already shown that he likes the racetrack here. He looks the part. He seems like he's going to get plenty of pace to chase, and I'm high on him. I've got him ranked 2. I've got Journalism 1, Sovereignty 2.
You've had him up there. Of course, Bill Mott was, as they say in the business, kissed up in that 2019 Kentucky Derby with Country House. Tacitus ran a good third. Only 13 starters, though. I mean, for a guy, I got into racing when he had Cigar. I mean, we're going back, I was 10 or 11 years old. He's been around a bit, a veteran horseman. Limited Derby starters, though. Kind of an interesting angle there.
Yeah, obviously maybe that indicates that he doesn't just show up for the sake of being here. He tries to pick his spots a little more carefully and bring real logical contenders.
Both Michael and Bill talked about their horses eating up. Caitlin mentioned breakfast at the Downs. I'm getting hungry, Tony. But first off, we got to figure out how to get some cheese to afford some of those breakfasts. And what about this money back guarantee? Yeah, it's a pretty cool promotion provided by Twin Spires. It's on designated races throughout a course of a day. And basically, it's your first up to $10 win bet. And if your horse doesn't happen to win the money and he runs second or third, Twin Spires is going to put that $10 right back into your account. This is a promotion that Joe Christofek needs to take advantage of often, but not you. You're a good tout, as they say. Yeah, if you say so. It's there we go, folks, having fun here on the rail at Churchill Downs Thursday morning. Coming up, we'll take a look at some of the Kentucky Oaks contenders on another beautiful morning in the Ville.
Place your bets with Twin Spires Handicapping Insights, our expert picks, or just by choosing a name that catches your eye. No matter how you pick your horse, bet with Twin Spires. Get your money back if your horse finishes second or third in eligible races.
The Kentucky Derby. Woodford Reserve Bourbon is a spectacle for the senses.
And welcome back to Churchill Downs. Harrows working over the racetrack. They do this to keep the track in pristine condition as we march toward the Oaks and Derby special training period, which happens every morning leading up to the races. It allows for those horses to have the racetrack to themselves, get those final preparations in for the Oaks and the Derby. Main track is fast today, partly cloudy. Maybe a little bit of weather rolling through later today into tomorrow. Doesn't seem to be overly aggressive. We could use it though. We've got a lot of pollen floating around Louisville. You know, I was talking about before coming on air. It's been a rough spring in terms of allergies, but
Yeah, it was a rough winter, so perhaps all the a lot of snow, a lot of wet moisture here. Perhaps that's help the allergies, unfortunately.
It's been warm this week, which is welcomed as we continue to advance toward those opening night races and beyond. Kentucky Oaks a week from tomorrow. We heard Marcassi say Lacar is going right to the front, so I think we can be guaranteed some pace. And coming up on the second page is a horse that's going to come from off the pace and quick kick.
Pace has been pretty good over the years in the Kentucky Oaks. Horses have a chance to get out there and freewheel, and nobody seems to make up a lot of ground. Good Cheer, the deserving favorite. She's obviously a late runner.
Yeah, if you watched the show yesterday, Brad Cox, who's another reserved trainer when the mic is on him, he gave, in my opinion, one of the most glowing reviews of a horse leading into the Kentucky Oaks with Good Cheer. She'll be a little bit more closer to the pace than this filly Quick Kick, who's 1 for 6 lifetime. She broke her maiden going 7 furlongs at Saratoga last year. She's just a deep closer. The faster they go up top, the better for her.
Yeah, more beneficial for her because she does her best running from off the pace. I've gone back and watched a bunch of her replays. It's not like she has a sudden quick burst. She seems to be kind of like one of those grinders that steady Eddie run to the wire. And I think she improves with her racing. Looking at her 2-year-old campaign, I thought one of her better races was her 3rd and 4th races on the cycle, and she's getting to that coming up for the Kentucky Oaks.
She did run a good second to Immersive, who came back to win the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies last year at Keeneland,
Yes.
going Amana 16th, which is a configuration that's a little more favorable to front-running sorts. So I feel like she's sort of overachieved a touch relative to the running style last year, but this year, while she might have paired numbers most recently with her 2-year-old top, she's still a few lengths behind some of these.
I would agree with that. She doesn't seem to quite have that pizzazz that she had at the end of her 2-year-old campaign versus where she is right now as a 3-year-old.
Serengeti Empress popped the gate a few years back at the Kentucky Oaks, went wire to wire for trainer Tom Amos, the trainer of Quick Kick, and we spoke with him yesterday.
Most of her points were made as a 2-year-old. She's given the fields quite an advantage out of the gate as a 3-year-old. She doesn't been breaking well, and we've been working on that quite a bit. But it's impossible to beat these kind of fillies unless she breaks well in the Oaks coming up. And we'd love to see a fast pace up front. I mean, I see it on paper. So if we can get good position early, I think we're a horse that can contend. We're always trying to do something with these horses and trying to get something out of a work. She'd done all of her major work before today, and today's work is, it's on Twitter, you can look at it. She's in hand the whole way, and that's by design. Quick Kick's not a big filly, and she's in good shape right now, and her weight's very good right now. I don't need to knock her down. She's done everything she needs to do, and looking at it, it's all a question of whether Edgar Morales, who was on her this morning, wanted to make more out of it than what it was. But I told him keep her in hand the whole way, so we were very happy with it.
Tom Amos, of course, a Kentucky Oaks winning trainer. He's also an astute handicapper, horse player. You can hear it in his quotes. He thinks about the race from a handicapping perspective.
Which is pretty cool because some trainers just don't have that in their arsenal, and Tom definitely does.
Tenma was widely considered to be Good Cheer's primary rival leading up to the Kentucky Oaks. And even though she won the Santa Anita Oaks, it's one of those situations where she won, but it actually, some folks felt like a loss. The number came back and it looked a little visually odd. Just kind of a tough horse to figure.
We're a critical world we live in, huh? Even when in victory, we try to find negatives, and that was the case with Tenma and her Santa Anita Oaks. I'll say this, she desperately needed the race. It was her first start in a couple of months, and she did what she was supposed to do. She grinded her way to the wire, and perhaps she wasn't geared up for her best effort on that, and the best efforts on the way. She has numbers that are favorable.
Yeah, she is second off a bit of a freshening. It is a good point, that February to April break, as she made her morning debut here at Churchill this morning. And she's looking good there. You can see the ears kind of moving back and forth. She's having a good time out there.
Yeah, she is, and that's what we want to see. The horses coming in from California, they're going to get acclimated. The weather's a lot different here in the Midwest than it is on the West Coast. Same with the Florida horses that come in. Perhaps that attributed to Sovereignty's washing out a bit post-workouts. But with Tenma here, looking good, and one of the contenders if she runs her best race.
She won her debut coming from off the pace, going 5.5. And anytime a horse wins their debut, it's a tip-off to some talent and some ability. And she's also won on the lead in the Starlet at Los Al back in December. She was on the front end, so she's a little versatile too.
She is, and that will come into play for her because, you don't want to be restricted to one type of running style, I think, in a race of significance like the Kentucky Oaks. So Tenma, I'm willing to give her another look. I think she's definitely has to be included.
Speaking of running styles and diversity and being able to handle various situations, one of the knocks on Baffert's runner in the Kentucky Derby, Citizen Bull, has been his one-dimensional running style. Horse that's enjoyed some easy leads. When he won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, he got a soft pace up top, no early pressure. That doesn't happen in the Kentucky Derby.
No, it does not. There's a bulky field, the biggest field size that they will probably ever see in their careers. I don't think that's too much of an overstatement. Citizen Bowl, those 3 races leading up between in between the Breeders' Cup Juvenile and Santa Anita Derby, the 3 victories in a row, like you said, everything went his way. Finally, when he had to deal with adversity, he backpedaled. And perhaps that's why Bob's really gearing up now. This is his 2nd workout in a short span, 111 and change. Last week, here's a 124 in 1 move. Last week without the blinkers, isolated move. Yesterday with the blinkers, Citizen Bowl. I think his best chance, like we were saying pre-show, is you mentioned it. The grind, stay in the 10 furlong race, stay close, grind your way to the wire.
Yeah, much like Tenma, he was off since February for that Santa Anita Derby, so perhaps he needed that race. And like you said, he worked in blinkers here. It was reported by Dave Grenning that they're going to take the blinkers off in the Kentucky Derby. Bob Baffert's pretty good with that move. He's 32%, nearly with a flat bet ROI profit, taking blinkers off in greatest stakes. He did it with Rodriguez to win the Wood Memorial, so it's not unheard of for him. We'll see how Citizen Bull weaves his way here to Louisville. He's supposed to arrive today, and I just mentioned Rodriguez. They took the blinkers off Rodriguez in the Wood Memorial. Didn't stop Mike Smith from sending him to the front, and that proved to be the right strategy.
Indeed it was, because they were all playing second fiddle to Rodriguez in the Wood Memorial. He went to the front early, and he never looked back. Grande was trying to make up ground in the final furlong, but he couldn't get there. Rodriguez winning in front style with the blinkers off. That's always been a good handicapping angle. I've liked it. I know Michael Canali likes it. Speed horses, forward type horses taking the blinkers off. It really is good for them.
Helps them to relax.
It does.
So I would envision Citizen Bull in a nice stalking trip.
I definitely would as well.
A week from Saturday. In the chute, and here at Churchill Downs, we have a mile chute. It goes all the way back beyond that first turn grandstand. We start mile races. But in fact, the first race of the meet will start way back there. Admire Daytona and Luxor Cafe, in their sort of unconventional by our standards, it's conventional by their standards, ways of approaching horse races. They're just back there doing their thing.
Yeah, they seem to like the chute. We've noticed that since the Japanese horses have been venturing here. They do a lot of unorthodox training in the chute. We don't do that here in North America, so we really don't know how to even describe it or put words to it.
Yeah, it just feels, I don't want to say uncomfortable to us, it's just different. It's hard for us to sort of decipher. We'll see how Admire Daytona and Luxor Cafe handle the Kentucky Derby. One of them figures to be a little bit more forward than the other, meaning Admire Daytona, Luxor Cafe. Very impressive in his most recent race.
Yes.
If you like those, you should consider plunking on them in the Kentucky Derby betting challenge.
You just have to make sure that you have participated in all the mandatory races and that you have saved enough money for the Kentucky Derby, probably the final race in the contest. That's an assumption, but these are great. These handicapping tournaments, and Twin Spires have been doing a great job. I like how they have the preliminaries, sometimes at an even lower level, feeders as we call them.
Yeah, you progress your way into them. If you have not played a handicapping tournament, it's a different spin, it's a different take on betting these races. They're a lot of fun, very challenging.
They are. You have to figure out where you want to go with your big wagers, and in this type of handicapping contest, I encourage people to go all in at any given moment.
Yeah, you got to be willing to pull that trigger.
You have to.
It's tough to do.
The $5,000 has to be lost money.
Yeah. Poker chip. Opening night coming up on Saturday. First post is 5 p.m. If you've joined us in the past, we usually start at 6. We're moving it up to 5. Which is good for us. We get out there a little bit earlier.
Yes.
But also because we got some other events going on Saturday, and that's the draw for the Kentucky Derby and the Kentucky Oaks. We'll start with the Oaks, the Derby to follow. That'll happen between races 5 and 6. Tony's going to warm up his pipes as I head downstairs to work with that. It'll be a great night for those that are fans of our voices. There's not many of them. I know my parents are tuning in.
I'll force my girlfriend to tune in. As I've said in the past, announcers, the only people I care about announcers are our family and loved ones, because we force them to.
They have to. Owen Almighty is waiting to roll out onto the racetrack for the special trading period. That's coming up right after this break.
As they head to the backstretch, it's a tight pack.
He's going to pull ahead. The Twin Spires expert picks were all optimistic.
You've got the best speed rating in the field. Don't fail me now.
Man, I love this horse's name.
And from far behind, here comes Frank. It's neck and neck. Frank is winning. Frank wins. Yes.
No matter how you pick your horse, bet with Twin Spires, the official betting partner of the Kentucky Derby. Get your money back if your horse finishes second or third in eligible races.
And once again, good morning from Churchill Downs here in the Ville on another beautiful morning. And there's Owen Almighty, one of 20 horses with a spot in the starting gate. A few others on the outside looking in, but there's still time. We'll see how things shake out over the next 9 to 10 days as we continue on with the road to the Oaks and the Derby. We are nearing the end of the road, though, and not much time left for things to shake out. Owen Almighty has garnered some headlines on this road. He originally was in the Derby, and then they were like, nah, we're going to go to the Pate Mile. And then, oh, by the way, we're back in. Certainly has some speed, so a potential pace influencer, if you will. And it sounds like he might be working today, so we'll see if he goes ahead with a more serious move. And Tony, I got to say, one of the cool things about this sport is these are horses, they're animals. And this guy's just kind of hanging out and doing his thing. Obviously, he's getting some love there. But they're creatures, and they have personalities, and it's all part of the puzzle.
They do have personalities, and it's pretty cool. I've spent a lot of years on the backside around horses, and each one is different from the other, and you have to be on your toes. One guy might be a cool customer, another one might try to light you up. Yeah,
the distinctive kangaroo logo of Brian Lynch's stable as we see some other horses there waiting to come onto the racetrack. I thought I saw a Brad Cox logo on the side of that helmet. We'll see for sure. There's the Japanese runners. Admire Daytona's in the red and Luxor Cafe in the, it looks like dark blue, maybe black. Yeah. They,
That's cool we get to see them in this shot, because just looking at that angle, Luxor Cafe looks physically bigger.
Yeah. If you go back, they raced against each other late last year. And it's actually a great race in and of itself.
You got to
pull that replay up. Yeah. They were about 12 lengths ahead of the horse in third, and it was a real dogfight. Kind of one of those races you'd remember for a while if you had seen it live. But for those of you that are handicapping this Derby, be sure to dig that replay. I mean, you got to navigate Japanese racing websites. But you can eventually find it. They really threw it down in there. And Luxor Cafe has done very little wrong since then, and he's been fairly impressive. We watched his replay at this event last night where he was 3 or 4 wide with a steady move on the turn. And Meyer Daytona probably going to show a little bit more speed in the Derby.
Yeah, definitely. I thought Luxor Cafe looked sensational in his recent victory. Showed a sudden burst, a nice turn of foot, good acceleration off the turn all the way to the wire. It was impressive.
Yeah.
Not sure what was behind him. That's the problem I have handicapping the Japanese horses.
You can see Caitlin in her pink cap there in the clocker stand. We're hoping she can give us some guidance on who these other horses rolling out are. Steve Asmussen, who is in behind there. A couple of his horses.
Fantastic and Publisher.
Yeah.
That's who it is.
Greg Blasey on horseback there. I thought Greg's interview about the workout the other day was interesting. He, too, had a little bit of quiet confidence, particularly about Publisher, who obviously worked faster. Seems to be a bit of a better workhorse than Tiztastic. Both of them, though, nothing but steady improvement from start to start to start.
Yeah, Tiztastic, I thought he had trouble in the Rebel. I thought he was making a move simultaneously with Cole Battle, and he had his momentum stalled a bit. I was fond of him going into the Louisiana Derby, and he came through with a big number, a big race. Seems like 1.25 miles. I think Steve has mentioned that he doesn't think that will be any problem with him. The workout Publisher, maybe a better workhouse. You just have to watch, you just have to evaluate what you see, Travis, and that workout was more favorable for Publisher. Tiztastic was asked. He couldn't really draw on level terms. He was under urging in the gallop out. It was Publisher's work.
Yeah, Tiztastic is certainly going to have no problem with that additional distance either. I mean, the Louisiana Derby is a mile 3/16.
Yes.
Not nothing. It's only another 1/16 of a mile to the Kentucky Derby. Tiztastic has that big white blaze. Here's Fondley, who is a Kentucky Oaks contender. Finally coming onto the racetrack for trainer Graham Motion. Finally, she's not without chance, probably has to get a bit faster.
You had a first-hand view of her when she won her race at Colonial, so you probably have a lot more to offer on her than I do.
Yeah, she ran fine that day. I don't know if she had to face a ton. This is obviously going to be a much tougher spot. The one thing is that the figure didn't come back particularly fast. She's going to have to get faster should she want to win this race. But she's also lightly raced, so there is room for improvement. Graham Motion.
And it will be her first race around 2 turns as well.
Yeah, that's right. At Colonial Downs, Mount 16th is around 1 turn. The Virginia Derby was around 1 turn as well. So this will be her first race going 2 because she won going 7 furlongs down at Tampa.
So that would have to make me kind of think she will be definitely forward.
Yeah, those horses that are stretching out from 1 turn to 2 turns sometimes can be a little bit keen.
Sure.
Rodriguez drew the rail in the Wood Memorial, went straight to the front, and that was it for him. You'd have to anticipate some sort of pace presence for him again.
You would have to. I mean, they take the blinkers off, and he responds very, very nicely. You know, there's some question marks. Is he just improving at the right time, or did he beat up on horses that were inferior to him? Because when he was in California, he wasn't as good as some of the others.
I didn't think he had the best of trips out west.
It seemed like their tactics were a little bit questionable.
I think maybe. It's fair to ask that question, and then when you bring him here to the East Coast, he goes to the front and returns back to some of his best form. Mike Smith is going to ride Rodriguez in the Derby. We've talked a little bit about this. He has a history of being on the engine. He sent Palace Malice to the lead. That set that race up for Orb. Palace Malice came back to win the Belmont. I will be a little bit surprised if Rodriguez is not sent from the gates and go right to the front.
I would agree with that. You would have to think the tactics will be go, especially now that Citizen Bull is going to take the blinkers off, and I think they're trying to get him to settle. So of Bob's horses, Rodriguez is the one that I think is the pace.
Yeah. Aaron Wellman of Eclipse Thoroughbred Partners is sitting on go, if you will. He's got a piece of the Derby favorite in journalism. They also own this horse we're looking at now, Built. Built is in the Kentucky Derby. He won the Gunrunner last December. He ran a good second to Lecomte in January. He's tailed off since then, but he has the points to be in the Derby. And, I mean, this is a competitive game. It's a competitive space. The horse that is on the outside looking in is Baeza. Baeza almost beat journalism. Built, by staying in the race, might help Baeza not get into the race. A little bit of chess there, but it's a legitimate consideration.
It is legitimate, and I know people are kind of knocking it, but as we were talking about, what about what journalism had to face in the Santa Anita Derby? He had a blocker. Bob Baffert had a couple of horses in there. So if it can be done in a race, why can't it be done pre-race before entries?
Hey, there's all sorts of tactics in racing. You use rabbits to set the race up for closers.
The rabbit is not even utilized the way it was when I was a kid.
Yeah, you always would hear about rabbits.
You would.
Yeah. This is Owen Almighty. We're told he's going to work. He's got a workmate. We're not sure who the workmate is. Owen Almighty, most recently 6th in the Bluegrass. He won the Tampa Bay Derby 2-back with a nice on-the-lead, soft-pace type scenario. I think it's fair to question whether or not this son of Speightstown, Breeders' Cup sprint winner, really wants to go 10 furlongs. But his best races have been on the lead, and when they decided to re-enter the Derby, if you will, or decide to take advantage of the fact they have a spot in the Derby, they indicated that was one of their considerations.
Well, he likes the surface. 2 starts. He broke his maiden in his career debut here. Both of his good efforts here at Churchill, though, were one-turn affairs. I think the Tampa Bay Derby wasn't the best thing that could have happened for him because he wins, and if he didn't win that affair, I don't think he would be on this path which he's on. And I thought the defeat in the Bluegrass was going to put that all to bed. Okay, you know what, Pat Day Mile. But as we've talked about it, Travis, if you've earned the points and you are the connections and you have a chance to run in the Kentucky Derby, it's hard to fault them.
This is interesting. With that workmate, this is a purposeful rate job off that workmate. You could see he was under a fairly snug hold early on in the work, and now he's being allowed to run up alongside and do his thing. And you can even see the rider's feet are in the dashboard just a little bit, purposely trying to rate Owen Almighty. Be curious if we can talk to Brian Lynch at some point and see what the intentions were here, because obviously he's finishing up fine now. That was a rate job. That was a workout where they wanted to rate him, and obviously he's finishing up very well.
And I think for his chance to succeed, to get the 10 furlongs, he has to rate. He's not going to get an easy lead like he did in the Tampa Bay Derby. You have Rodriguez, you have East Avenue. D. Wayne Lucas has his horse, American Promise. Owen Almighty, I don't think is quick enough to make the lead against those types. That is the best chance he has to run his best race.
Yeah. Owen Almighty, he won his debut here at Churchill last June, was highly touted in that spot, won it well, then came right down to Ellis Park, won a race down there that you watched live. Yep. And he was a good second in the Iroquois behind Jonathan's Way, too. And it's funny, when they ran that race, I was kind of like, maybe that horse wants to go a little bit farther. Turns out that was a poor read, in my opinion. I still think he's probably more of a middle distance type horse. Of course, watch him win the Derby now and make me look foolish.
Well, I could see the Alan Jerkins later on this summer. That probably is a much more logical spot. I will say this about the Iroquois, at least he did rate a little bit that particular day. You know, you would think going from those shorter races in the first two starts that he would have been a little bit more on the engine. Yeah. He tried to rate and catch Jonathan's Way. I thought it was a good effort in defeat. I like him better going one turn than a mile and a quarter, that's for sure.
That was a big gallop out for Owen Almighty.
It really
all
was.
The way back
As
to
you
Track
mentioned.
Kitchen, which is near the far turn here at Churchill Downs. Journalism he's in the gate, he's schooling. Tell us about schooling. What's happening here?
Well, they're just trying to get him accustomed to being in the starting gate over there. It's good for horses, especially younger horses. It's not like this is a 5-year-old that's been to the races many, many times. So he's still relatively inexperienced. He's only had 5 career starts. And I think it's always good. The same thing like taking him to the paddock. Yeah. These are things that you just want to do. Make sure, hey, you haven't forgot about it. First time here at Churchill Downs, first time out of California. Let's get him in the gate over there. Just make sure everything is the way it was back home. And it's good for young horses, no question about it.
I always look at it as removing variables. So if your horse has seen the starting gate here or has seen the paddock, or obviously we have a tunnel from the main track to the paddock at Churchill Downs, so you got to walk through that tunnel to get back to the paddock. So seeing that for the first time and just trying to eliminate the distractions of potential variables that could disrupt the routines leading up to a race.
And the critics, we're under such a watchful eye by everybody. If the horse was to not get schooled at the starting gate, and he has all sorts of issues at the starting gate in the biggest race of his career, lots of scrutiny. So it's a positive, no question about it.
Journalism figures to be 5-2, 3-1-ish or so. In addition to Owen Almighty, Built on the work tab this morning. Let's take a look at this now. Built, most recently 5th in the Louisiana Derby. He sort of made himself known pretty quickly in that December Gunrunner when he won that race by 6 with a stout improvement in speed figures. But then the number kind of tailed off when he ran in Le Comte. That was a sloppy track, so maybe he gets a bit of a pass for that. But he was no match for magnitude, and he also lost a chunk of gold in the Risen Star. This is Built working for Wayne Catalano. Eclipse Thoroughbred, as we talked about, owns him and has some journalism action as well.
You know, he has somewhat regressed since the Gunrunner. I'm a big preacher of spacing. It was just something I was taught early on with my handicapping, good ideal spacing between starts, especially with good horses. And from the Gunrunner to the Le Comte, he was on less than 1 month's rest. And the same with the Risen Star. He got about 5 weeks for the Louisiana Derby, made an early bid, could not sustain his run all the way to the wire. That was the first time with blinkers. We talk about it. I'm not that big on him because it seems like he's going in the wrong direction. I seem to like 3-year-olds that develop later, closer to the Derby, as opposed to peaking a little bit earlier in December and January.
Built's times coming in here from Clocker John and KK. He went 24, 36-2, 59-2, 113-2. Owen Almighty started 2 lengths behind No Sleep Till Brooklyn. He went 26, 37-3, 101-3, 114 out in 127. That was a big gallop out for Owen Almighty.
It was a big gallop out. No Sleep Till Brooklyn. We've got Sandman with Metallica. No Sleep Till Brooklyn. The Beastie Boys would want to get in this mix too.
There you go. I mean, we're hitting all the notes. Oh, no pun intended. That's very Joe of me. Built, this is a good... a bit of a tightener, as you would say, heading into the Kentucky Derby. Visually, this is not a gallop out like we saw with Owen Almighty, though.
Yeah, I thought Owen Almighty's move, like you said, it was a very, very nice move. Built some question marks surrounding him.
Here's your boy,
Yes,
Sovereignty,
he is.
and
Look at him.
this seems to be a thing for him. He's very keen, tossing his head about, maybe a little bit washy here or there in the mornings post his workout. But who am I to argue with a guy like Bill Mott, who seemed very confident when we spoke to him earlier?
Look at the size of this horse. He just covers a tremendous amount of ground in an effortless manner. His street sense, as we mentioned, was visually impressive. His Fountain of Youth was incredible. I thought it was one of the better preps. Just that final furlong to run down River Thames on a speed-favoring racetrack at Gulfstream Park with a short run to the wire. It's not easy to do. He was stuck out in no man's land going into the first turn for the Florida Derby. I don't think he was geared up for his best race. I think he's geared up for his best race in a couple of Saturdays, and I like this horse a lot.
He was 5 lengths behind in the street sense, and then all of a sudden he was 5 lengths in front. And it is a fair point you raise in terms of Gulfstream Park. That is a racetrack it's tough to come from off the pace there. That's a short stretch in some of those races, quick runs to the turn. It's just more of a speed favoring racetrack than I would say Churchill. Churchill, you have a 2 furlong home stretch, plenty of time to kind of wheel out and get your gears going. Sovereignty, I would say at the end of the day, he just feels like a reliable closer. He's going to come with his run, and we're going to find out whether or not it's good enough.
I just love looking at him. I mean, look at the size of his chest and shoulders, a powerful neck, powerful hindquarters. To me, he looks the part. Tonight, the NFL draft, the combine, you look at athletes, you can tell that's an athlete. I'm looking at him, and that's an athlete, ladies and gentlemen. That's a racehorse.
Yeah, I'm going to keep watching him over the next several days to see how he is with these routine gallops. I mean, like they had said earlier, the main work is done. Now it's about maintaining. This is a keen horse, though, and it's interesting to juxtapose it against what you want in the Kentucky Derby. You obviously don't want a horse to get unsettled. However, when you're a closer, they're naturally going to run away from you, and maybe that allows you to settle into your stride and maybe not get so left behind you're looking at last place heading to the backstretch a little bit closer.
He's a relatively fresh individual. He was inactive from the street sense all the way to the 1st of March in the Fountain of Youth, and then he had to come back on 4 weeks rest. I like the spacing a lot better for the Derby. Perhaps that's why he's a little keen. Plus, he's been in Florida all winter, and maybe he's just trying to figure out what's going on around here. Much more settled right now as he moves into this gallop.
Yeah, into the more serious
Look at
movement
him.
for Sovereignty. Speaking of good lookers, how about this fellow? This is journalism. What can you say? We said it earlier. They call him King Kong out on the West Coast, and for good reason. He just is this imposing presence with good strides, good movement. And Michael McCarthy said he's been in a groove now for a few months, and I don't think we've de-grooved, if you will.
The groove continues to go on. This is a racehorse, obviously, undefeated in his 4 starts around 2 turns. The knock on him is he runs against not many competitors. Only 3 occasions he has raced against, or 4 occasions he's raced against 4 other rivals. I'll say this, though. Think about it. It's a short field in California, and he's coming from off the pace. I mean, that's never easy.
No.
And it's never easy to run down Bob Baffert horses, especially in the campaign, the San Felipe, the Bob Lewis, those type of races, even though journalism wasn't in the Bob Lewis. What I'm saying, it's not easy because Baffert has a way as horses re-break as the term, and journalism was able to do it. He's legit.
I think the only concern for journalism, and let's be fair, this is a concern for everybody, is what happens Saturday night at the
Exactly.
draw.
An inside draw would not be his best friend.
I think you want to see him draw toward the outside. He's a big horse. You don't want to get bottled up down inside because obviously you just make your job that much more difficult. No margin for error in the Kentucky Derby.
Nobody wants the rail. Is Ferdinand the last horse who won on the rail?
That's a good question. I should know that off the top of my head.
I think it is.
The one thing I'll say about the rail now, with the new starting gate, is there's more space.
Yes.
It's not quite as squeezing, if you will, when you come out of the gate. There's a little bit more room to work with. Obviously, it's truly suboptimal. There's better posts, but it's not quite as bad as it was, for the prior 30 or 40 years before this new starting gate, meaning there's no auxiliary gate anymore.
And we saw what happened to the horse who drew the rail last year.
Yeah.
He didn't get away out of the starting gate, and then he comes back and he wins the Belmont.
Yeah, horses like to veer to open space, left or right, depending if they're inside or outside. Sovereignty, after that gallop, he's going to take a trip over to the starting gate. That gate is positioned at the top of the stretch here at Churchill. There's a little bit of a chute that comes off of the home stretch, so that gate is there every morning for these horses to take advantage of. So he's standing in the gate not far from where he'll be standing in the gate 9 days from today.
I like that. I'm glad you brought that up. I was wondering when journalism was in the gate where it is actually positioned.
I don't remember the year it was built, but it was built since I've been here. I came here in 2015, and I remember they extended that chute out a little bit to allow that gate to sit there. In the morning, you know this, Tony, there's a lot of activity on the racetrack.
Yes.
So if you want to work a horse from the gate, the starter will stand next to the gate and look around the turn to make sure nobody's coming. There's no traffic lights on a racetrack.
Exactly. That's why everyone has to have their eyes open and the heads are swiveling, looking for all sorts, because it is happening. That's for sure. Very hectic. If you haven't ever ventured out in the morning to watch the horses work out, you owe it to yourself, because it's pretty cool.
Somebody should tell Luxor Cafe and Company there's more to this racetrack than the chute. They're still back there. This is what they do. I wonder if they're going to have some more serious moves. Luxor Cafe can see there is a crop in the hand there of the rider. I don't know if there's intentions of doing more today. I'm not sure. That chute is about a quarter mile long.
He kind of works out the way I do, a very casual stroll, not a brisk walk.
Yeah. Walking, that's my style.
Hey, walking is good. Walking is good.
Yeah. He's been impressive. I think one of the things when it comes to figuring out these Japanese horses, because obviously they're winning races all around the world. They're figuring it out each and every year. Obviously last year they nearly got there. He's not going to be one of the shorter price horses in the race. He's probably 15 to 20 to 1 type range. So if you want to back that first Japanese winner of the Derby, you'll get a good price on him.
It should be noted he's been under quarantine for 42 hours. He's just got here. So
there's the Derby gate.
Yeah,
that's the actual gate they'll use. So if you want to put your Derby horse in the gate that they will start the Derby from, it's set up on the chute there. It's a good look at the sign.
Yeah, I can't
American
even
Promise?
imagine what these owners, how they feel leading up to this, to have a horse that is qualified for the Kentucky Derby. What a thrill that must be.
Yeah, American Promise coming off the racetrack. American Promise won the Virginia Derby, that one-turn Virginia Derby. He figures to be part of the pace, and I've been saying I think Dewey Lucas tipped the hand there with that sharp workout the other day.
Yeah, and he did. He went 125 and change out of the starting gate, and he was basically put into the work pretty early, staying close to a mate and easily disposing of him, and he was under some urging. So as you mentioned, I think, and D-Wayne likes to have his horses forwardly positioned. Obviously, he won the Preakness with those type of tactics.
Yeah,
winning colors.
Just Steel showed speed last year, same connections.
Makes a lot of sense.
I'd anticipate him
coming out of a one-turn race as well.
Yep, a little fresh too. That was a while ago, so that's a component as well. Fresher horses sometimes just a little bit sharper.
A little keen. They're eager to go.
Yeah. Luxor Cafe. He's seen enough for that chute. He's walking off. A little washy there. It's a cool morning. A little warmer than yesterday.
You know, he is new here. He's new in town, and he's having to deal with stuff that he hasn't probably ever dealt with before in his past. Here, look at Sovereignty. Here he is again.
Sovereignty's washy again. I would have to see how that continues on. Maybe that's typical for him. He's been like that for a few days now, so I think we're tilting toward that. But we still have 9 or 10 days to go, so we'll see how he behaves. It's a good mover, isn't he? Just a nice looking horse.
Yeah, he is a very nice looking horse. You know, and you mentioned that he is a little keen. He's a little keen in his gallop, so perhaps that's contributing to his washiness. I'm going to try to pick some of my friends here, some trainers I know around the country, see what their thoughts are on as we mentioned, washing out pre-race, pre-workout versus post-race, post-workout.
Yeah, I mean, if it's him, if that's how he is every day, then whatever.
Exactly.
Right.
Sovereignty
will be coming from off the pace. He's coming with a run. It's just whether or not it's going to be enough.
He's a big horse, so you would have to think that he's going to need a pretty good path to pursue. He doesn't need a lot of obstructions. He doesn't seem like the type of horse that can start, get it going again.
More grindy.
Yeah.
A little bit more grindy than
he's a big
explosive.
Horse.
Although his race at Churchill, that was a pretty quick turn of foot he showed there.
That's true. That's true.
Now he's a 3-year-old. So perhaps he's just a little bit more of a stronger, larger horse. As you can see, the crowd on the rail, everybody comes out Derby week morning, see how things go.
Yeah, this is pretty cool for the fans. It's free, and we're going to be having that Dawn at the Downs all the way up until next Wednesday. So take advantage, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, a lot of times these workouts only seem to happen on the Fridays and Saturdays, but this week we've had some action each and every day, which is a little bit atypical. We had 2 of them today. We'll come back and take a look at those. A quick look at Burnham Square. He might not be good enough to win the Derby, But I love the way he's been campaigned. I even tweeted about it. Like, rather than picking spots and waiting 2 months between races, Ian Wilkes, a little bit more old school, racing his horse into shape. But it all came together last time. And you have to think Brian Hernandez, we saw it last year, is worth a length or two, if not more, at Churchill Downs.
Without a doubt, Burnham Square 3 lengths behind Sovereignty in the Fountain of Youth. Brian takes over for the Bluegrass, and voila, we're in the winner's circle. A nice horse, and he definitely has the right profile, the right style, because we're anticipating a good pace as always in the Derby, and Burnham Square does his best running in the concluding stages.
When built, this is built, he worked earlier today, 59-4. When he won his sort of coming out party in the Gun Runner last December, he went wire to wire. I don't anticipate him really showing much speed when it comes to the Derby.
I don't think he wants to show much speed. I don't think that would enhance his chances. You know, Rodriguez and East Avenue are freewheelers. They're going to be really put into play early. We're talking about other horses. Dwayne Lucas's horse. Bilt's best chance to succeed is try to ration that energy as best he can through the early stages, hope for a perfect trip, and come with a run. You know, I believe Wayne Catalano might have mentioned that the jock might have moved a little too soon in the Louisiana Derby, or perhaps, or just couldn't sustain it. I don't know. It's not a bad work, though. He's leveling off nicely, and he has a good stride. I like how he's extending.
Yeah, we'll see the gallop out here a little bit on Built as well. Maybe he moved a little early in the Louisiana Derby, or maybe that distance just caught up to him.
That's what I'm thinking, too.
Pace was solid enough. I mean, the race did come apart a bit. But Chunk of Gold, who was in that race as well and is in the Kentucky Derby, he's supposed to work tomorrow up at Turfway before shipping down here to Churchill. All horses have to be here at Churchill soon. They were sort of right near each other, and Chunk of Gold was able to finish and Built wasn't. So, you know, sort of a comparison handicapping angle to consider.
Yeah, you know, I talked about spacing when we were looking at Built a little bit earlier in the show, and he just had a lot to do in a short span. From the 21st of December up until the Risen Star, he didn't even get a month's preparation for any of those races, and perhaps it's caught up to him.
This is Owen Almighty, who is in, out, in, and is in the Derby now. There's some intention on this workout. That's his workmate. What was the name? No Sleep Till Brooklyn.
Yes.
This is an intentional rate off this workmate and then sidle up alongside and go on by. And we saw it earlier, and we'll see it again here soon. This was a big gallop out for Owen Almighty. He went 101.3, 114, 127 for the times on his work.
It's a very nice move. He's got a very, very good stride coming to the quarter pole, and the exercise rider is not even really urging him, and he does it effortlessly, and I think it's his best chance to try to make an impact in this year's Kentucky Derby. You mentioned Speightstown Blood up top. You know, there are some distance limitations within, but this is a good move, and his best chance is to get that stalking trip, perhaps sitting third, fourth, fifth, somewhere a couple of lengths off, and try to come with a run. He tried to do that a little bit off of East Avenue in the Bluegrass, but he could never push on by, and then he backpedaled. This move only helps, and we know that he likes the surface. He has 2 starts here with a good maiden debut victory and a very solid second in the Iroquois.
This horse has never been above 4-1 in all 7 of his career starts.
Joe Kay's live long shot in debut run.
Poor Owen. Anyway. This was a big gallop out. So at Churchill, the track kitchen where you can, good burritos, by the way. The track kitchen near the far turn just beyond the half-mile pole is often a gauge as to the significance of a gallop out. And you'll see here the track kitchen come into view. This is a huge gallop out, really.
Very, very big work. Very big gallop out. It's good for Owen Almighty. This is very, very nice for him.
Oh, maybe he can outrun his odds. I sort of like this move. We'll see what some of the experts say. You know?
Yeah.
Not without chance, I suppose.
You know, like we mentioned, I don't think he has a very good chance if he's going to try to go head-to-head with East Avenue and Rodriguez. So this move indicates that a little rationing of the speed and try to come and sit a good trip and try to finish the best you can.
All part of the puzzle, especially as when you consider post positions, which we'll be drawing on Saturday night. Some other things to think about is this money back guarantee. So if you want to bet Owen Almighty, I don't know if the Derby qualifies, we'll have to find out. But
I would hope it would.
There's a couple of races that it will qualify for, and tell us about this.
Well, basically, you're up to $10. That's what we're going to limit you with, and it's with your first win bet. So if you make multiple $10 win bets, it will be your first one. And if your horse happens to run second or third, you know what? We're going to give you back that $10. It's pretty cool, Twin Spires. And it's great because sometimes on a big hectic day, you make a lot of bets. Maybe you make a lot of bets early, you forget. And maybe you wake up and you've got breakfast, or if you're like me, you've got a bet later on in the evening.
Yeah, it's like a little bit of insurance, if you will.
Yeah.
Speaking of money, $250,000 on the line, the Kentucky Derby Betting Challenge. This is new this year, at least in this format. Twin Spires has entered the tournament space, and for anybody that plays races, these tournaments are a blast. It's a totally different spin. It's a challenge. You're competing against not only your wagering prowess, but also your friends and your enemies, if you will, in that leaderboard.
Yeah, and it's live money, so you know, you can't be afraid. It has to be considered lost money. If you're going to pony up the 5 Gs, you just basically have to pretend you've cut the check to Travis Stone or Tony Kalo and it's gone.
Yeah, you can't be afraid to shove it all in, like at the poker table. Opening night coming up on Saturday. First post is 5 p.m., usually 6. We like that earlier post time.
Yeah.
But it's also 5 p.m. because we've got some other stuff going on opening night, and that's the draw for the Oaks and the Derby, which will take place between races 5 and 6, 10 races on tap on Saturday. These trainers are going to be out a bit later than usual, maybe, but something tells me they won't be overly tired because they'll be anxious. Post positions matter.
Yeah, they do matter. That's a pretty cool thing. You must be looking forward to that. That must be kind of a rush in itself.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to being over. We get into a groove, you know?
Right.
And actually get upstairs and get to work. Caitlin Free's been on the backstretch all morning long. She always matches. Look at the mic matches the jacket matches the hat. Caitlin, what'd you think this morning?
Interesting morning, a pretty busy morning, I would say. The highlights for me would be seeing Luxor Cafe and Fondly for the first time. Fondly is a horse that I have rated very, very highly for the Kentucky Oaks. Probably one of those underneath spots under Good Cheer. I'm not sure she's quite good enough at this point in her career to beat the likes of Good Cheer, but I think she's a horse that is progressing well. She's 2 for 2 in her career, so she's one I'm very interested in. Luxor Cafe, very happy with what I saw. All indications are he shipped very, very well. I would definitely say so with him being on the track this fast after getting in just about 7:30 last night. He kind of had those earmuffs on, was doing really, really well with Admire Daytona, who I think has settled in quite well here at Churchill Downs. He was a little bit more vocal, a little bit more amped up when he got here to Louisville about a week and a half ago, but he's a horse that I think has really settled in nicely. Luxor Cafe, I think you can say the same about as well.
Thank you, Caitlin. Enjoy the rest of your morning back there. Caitlin is fond of Fondly. I think Good Cheer is by far and away the Oaks horse to beat.
I do too. She deserves it. 6 for 6, hasn't done anything wrong, and you're mentioning that Brad might even try to get her a little bit into the race earlier than her previous victories. She deserves top billing.
He was glowing about her workout the other day. Where are you in terms of a Derby 1-2 punch as we sit 9 or 10 days out?
I'm going to stick with my guns right now. Journalism and sovereignty. Those have been the two that I've been touting for a couple months now, and I don't think there's any reason to jump off that.
Journalism for me, but I do think Tapan Street might be the up-and-comer with a opportunity to maybe upset the apple cart, if you will, come Kentucky Derby. This is it for me on the work show. Always enjoy working with you, Tony, and everybody else. Thanks everybody behind the scenes that put this together. Joe Christofek is back on set tomorrow. I think Kilroy's with him. We'll have to wake up. Well, I'm not going to wake up and find out. I'm going to watch it on DVR.
Yeah, take advantage of the tape delay.
And if you're here in the Louisville area, come out to Churchill Downs and enjoy these morning works and enjoy the road to the Kentucky Derby. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a great Thursday. We'll see you tomorrow.